So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Town of Lancaster Conservation Commission meeting, notice of remote meeting via Zoom for February 13th, 2024. I'm going to call the roll. Dennis Hubbard.
Here.
Bruce McGregor.
Here.
Jim LaValle.
Here.
Sean Windsor. Sean, and Tom Seidenberg is also here. Okay. First up on the agenda, we have continued notice of intent for Zero Heritage Lane. I see Matt on the call. Matt, you want to give us an update?
Good evening, gents. Matt Morrow representing Zero Heritage Lane. Just to get the formality out of the way. I am going to ask for another continuance. I'm still waiting on a couple of more bids from engineering companies. This is going to basically entail a lot of moving parts that you guys had asked for. So I want to make sure that we get as comprehensive a bid as possible. We've got some in. There's a couple of more I'm still waiting. So I need to be able to approach my client with that so he can see what's going to serve him best, especially when it comes to, costs involved. Because I mean, there are going to be costs involved in this. But before I request the continuance, one thing I wanted to ask the commission. Apparently, at the previous meeting, the commission had voted to ask for a third-party review. At the previous meeting where I was at, and I thought about this for quite a while, because there's been a space in between meetings. When we had last left off, the train of thought when I requested the continuance was that I would, continue again while I was getting these bids, because obviously I don't want to rush things. I want to make sure this engineering is done carefully and to take all of your considerations and the concerns of the abutters into account. But the feeling when a third party was discussed was that, the commission had decided at that point to wait until they had seen the revised engineering, which is going to take a little time, and then decide from there. So I'm asking if the commission would reconsider the third-party review at this point until, like we'd stated previously, you guys have had a chance to actually see the changes that I come up with and the supporting data, taking on a new engineering team, because this is basically taking on a whole new engineering team. And that was basically all I wanted to ask the commission at this point.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Commissioners, do you have any opinions? Go ahead, Bruce.
I think Tom, when you brought up about the peer review, I had been thinking about it since that previous meeting as well, and so I was going to suggest that as well. When you suggested, I thought it just worked out perfectly because, you're at a meeting, you listen to a lot of information, and then, sometimes after the meeting, you think about different things. There was also, different things that had come in from different, people from, that live on the street as well, or in the neighborhood. And I think that this is a very sensitive situation. The other thing too is the situation that's going on there is even beyond this particular project, because whether this project was to go through or not, they're having issues there regardless of the project. And I do think that a lot of the things that you've presented, Mr. Morrow, is to try to keep, with the project going in there, trying to keep things where there's not going to be any additional damage coming from the property. And I'm excited to see the information that you're going to come up with and show us. But at the same time, I think a peer review is important in this situation. But I think that if they want to have this whole thing rectified, it even goes beyond what's happening, with this project. But that's the reason why I think a peer review is important. The other thing too is, if you put in the project and everything that you do works out perfectly and there's no additional damage coming from the property that's put in there, but they still have other things from other areas coming in and affecting that area, the first thing they're going to think of is, oh, it's got to be because this house was built, where it may not necessarily be that because there's an issue right there currently. So I think having that peer review also protects, because even if the house is built and you guys do everything perfect, there could still be some other factors involved. But if we've done a peer review just to take away that doubt, that's the reason why I feel strongly about it. It was something I did think about, but I'm just trying to look at this from all angles.
Bruce, Jim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. So I think probably more than ever, I'm convinced that it does need a peer review. The site is really complicated. Now we have another engineering firm coming in, and presumably we'll get a plan that's better, but even more complicated. And I certainly don't have the expertise to review that appropriately. So I still advocate for peer review.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
So I guess I would just echo both Bruce and Jim that I do feel like I'm going to want a peer review. So Matt, it does seem like the majority of us are interested in a peer review. So I guess that's your answer. Any further comment?
The only other,
Sorry, I see Dennis's hand. Go ahead, Dennis.
sorry.
No, I think with the complexity, I'm leaning more towards a peer review on this one too. But the reality is we're not going to actually conduct a peer review until the new plans come. So correct me if I'm wrong, we would have the ability when the new plans are done, if for some reason we felt so much more comfortable with them that we could decide at that point in time to vote to reconsider the peer review, correct?
I think that's fair. Yeah. If we're fully wowed and convinced by the plans, sure. I think that's a possible outcome.
Changing the plans.
So I guess I would suggest that I'm more in favor to keep it as stands, and then we can reconsider at the time when we see the new plans, or at least expressing our deep concern and leaning towards wanting that peer review.
Thanks, Dennis. Jim?
Yeah, so Dennis, thanks for saying all that. I totally agree. There's nothing to be peer reviewed at the moment, right? We have to wait for those plans.
It's another
right,
and that would be our opportunity to change our minds on that. I think we could probably still anticipate requesting one. I think it's a high bar to have us vote to not require a peer review, but we'll see. That's all I have.
Thanks, Jim. Matt?
Well, listening to the reaction of the commission and the way Commissioner Hubbard actually put it, I think that's more than fair. So you're essentially still giving me the opportunity to take a look at it. And if you decide that the information is complete enough where you can make a decision without the peer review, then you'll reconsider. I mean, that's more than fair. If at that point you still decide you want the peer review, fine. The only other thing that I would ask that we work out, once you see the information, there may be a lot of questions that are answered, and there still may be items that you would want to consider on a peer review. So what I would ask at that point is that if you still decide you want the peer review, that we work out a scope on what the peer review actually is going to look at.
Yep, that's fair.
All right, then that's all I can ask.
I don't think so.
I really appreciate it.
Sure.
So
So
for reasons I can't go into, the prior engineering team is not able to do the work. So we're basically assembling another engineering team to review and reevaluate the information, and change and add to the information and work to address what has been expressed in previous meetings. So with that in mind, I will request a continuance until the next meeting.
Okay. Kendra, I do see your hand, but since we're just going to continue, I don't think I'm going to take public comment on this hearing today. Thanks. Happy to take a motion to continue to the next meeting. Jim, you're on mute. I think you're offering the motion.
Yeah, I am. Sorry about that. Motion to continue to February 27th.
I'll second.
Motion's been made to continue to February 27th. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
And Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. Okay. See you in 2 weeks, Matt.
Hey, folks, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a continued notice of intent hearing for Fire Road 7 culvert replacement. I see Larry on the call. I did.
Yes, good evening.
Yep. Go ahead. Go ahead, Larry,
So-
bring us up to date.
All right, so good evening, Larry Green. I'm just here to briefly discuss the culvert replacement Fire Road 7. Is my understanding since the last meeting, you guys requested additional information pertaining to the soil strata within the bottom of the culvert we're replacing. So what I've done is I've specified a soil that mimics the existing soil profile, which is basically the area is mapped as a Quonset loamy sand. So basically within the culvert, I'm specifying a really nice graded gravel to just kind of keep it simple. Basically, I'm giving a designation of a mass highway gravel borough M.103 type A, which just gives you a really nice gradation from 6-inch gravel down to basically like a 1-inch minus. And that's really all my understanding is that's all you guys were requesting was that information. So that's all I have.
Larry, did we get an updated plan?
Yes, I emailed one to Brianna.
Okay, so yeah, so Brianna left the town's employ. I don't know, Brian, did you get that? Brian, I see your hand raised.
I
Yeah,
think he was CC.
no, go ahead, Laura.
I believe you were CC'd on the email. I'm not positive.
Okay, I didn't see it. I could go back to it, but I didn't see it. But again, okay, but if I could just back up just a little bit, Tom, Mr.
Sure.
Chair, I want to just remind everyone that Rosalind Lectern is now hosting these meetings and taking for the purpose of doing minutes. So if I could remind everyone to state their name, but also who they are and where they're from, that would be very helpful for Roz in getting minutes done in a timely fashion. I will go back to so Laura, that would have been from your agency.
Yes.
Where
So
that email would have come from?
John Plitka from McCarty Engineering would have forwarded you that email this morning at 11:58.
Okay, I did not. Well, let me see if I came in today. I did not see an email, but I was actually in and out of the office today, so I may not have seen all my emails.
Okay.
Going back to there now. 11:58, you said?
Yes. Well, my apologies. I should have sent it earlier. So
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm seeing it now. Okay, so yes, okay. So let me forward this to the commissioners now. And I know it's late in the game, but again, I apologize. I was in and out, doing other things. I didn't keep on my email all day, but let's see.
my apologies. I didn't know Brianna had left, so my apologies on that as well.
Yeah, so hopefully we're doing a new search. Okay.
Good luck.
All right, Tom, I'll forward this now.
Okay, thanks. Larry, you want to share your screen? You have the plan?
Yeah, if I can test my abilities here. Where is it? Um, so if I now go, is it letting me? Can you see that?
Something's coming up. Not yet. Okay. Yep, we've got it.
There you go. So I can zoom in here. So basically, all I've really provided is on the culvert itself, this additional information, basically in the description of the soil within the culvert, basically pulling the word rate on Mass Highway, giving of that gravel burrow being a inert material. It was a hard, durable stone and coarse sand, free of loam and silt. And then again here, I just give it the right here the gravel burrow gradation N.10 through type A, as I said, which gives you a really nice gradation from 6-inch gravel down to a 1-inch minus, which mimics the existing flow path, which is because parent material is a Quonset loamy sand.
Commissioners, does anyone have any questions?
Not for me.
Not seeing
No questions
any.
at this time.
All right, so Larry, if you could confirm that was the last outstanding item on this hearing, is that
My
correct?
understanding,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yep.
So if the commissioners don't have any questions, I'd be happy to take a motions to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second. Dennis?
All right, motion's been made by Bruce and seconded by Dennis to close the hearing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. And now I'd be happy to take a motion to issue the order of conditions.
Yep, motion to issue an standard order of conditions.
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Jim, seconded by Dennis to issue order of conditions. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
And Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. All right. Thank you, Larry.
Awesome. Thank you. Enjoy your night.
You too. Okay, moving right along. Third up on our agenda. Larry, if you could stop. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Yep. Next up on our agenda is a continued notice of intent hearing for 35 Holiday Lane. Mr. Collette, I see you on the call. Want to give us an update?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Jonathan Collette with Haley Ward. I will share my screen and pull up the plan. So, can everybody see that? I should do that right?
Yep, we can see that.
Okay, so the only thing that has changed on the proposed plan since the last meeting is the filter trench on the left side of the garage was pulled back out of the 25-foot buffer zone. Sorry, for some reason I can't see what I'm sharing, but but yeah, that was the only thing that has changed on the site plan since the last meeting.
Okay. So we had talked the other day, and I had told you that we had reached out to town council about the problem with the previous notice of intent. I had expected to receive a letter from council before this meeting, but that didn't occur. So I think it's kind of up in the air in some sense about how we should proceed with incorporating the violation into this notice of intent. So I know that there was some additional communications regarding DEP's comments. I don't know, Jonathan, if you want to discuss a little bit about that.
Yep. So I believe all of the additional comments we had gotten from DEP was regarding the work that had previously taken place along the bank. And so I guess as far as it concerns the site plan now, I don't really have an answer for that. Marianne DePinto is also on this call. She had worked with Dominic previously, I believe back in June of last year, getting what had taken place, the work along the bank permitted. Marianne, I don't know if you have any comments
Yes.
Regarding that.
Yes. I did some additional research. I attended a site visit, first of all, with Charlotte Steves back in June, and then appeared before the Conservation Commission to amend the order of conditions 193-569 to include the patio and the work on the bank. Along with the work on the bank, it was approved that there would be plantings. I supplied live stakes to the landowner to plant in amongst the riprap. You believed that taking the riprap out at this point would be detrimental. And instead, planting live stakes of silky dogwood and elderberry, I believe is what I supplied him with, as well as high bush blueberry and mountain laurel across the top of the slope. I went back and watched the video from that meeting, and it was approved as an amended order of conditions, as long as the order, which was going to expire in August, was still valid, and it was until August. You folks voted not to extend that order, but within that order, it was amended to keep the patio and the riprap area. And that amended order should have been sent to DEP at that point, once it was issued.
So I'm going to disagree a little bit about what you just said. So we very clearly opened a new notice of intent hearing.
I know you did.
The original request going back to the beginning of 2023 was for an amendment because the proposed addition, the footprint had changed. And so, when that original ask had come in, I wasn't participant in those conversations, but I believe that the end result of that was a request to file a new notice of intent. And that's when the violation was discovered. And a notice of intent was filed for that violation. That notice of intent never went to DEP. And so as far as DEP is concerned, the violation hasn't been addressed. And all of the actions of those hearings never occurred from a legal standpoint. And that's what I expect the letter from town council to say. But since we don't have that letter, I'm a little bit hesitant to I'm a little bit hesitant to make any further claims. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to cloud the issues any further. So I'm still waiting on town council to provide guidance to the commission. So having said that, since DEP was never notified, they never provided any comments to the violation hearing. And so now we do have comments from DEP. And in particular, they're asking for calculations regarding the loss of flood storage capacity of White's Pond.
Yeah, there isn't any. But
Well, so fill was
Yeah.
placed. Fill was placed below the floodplain elevation. So that obviously reduces the capacity. If you're going to maintain that wasn't a reduction, then we need the calculations for that. And that's
get
really
that
what
from
DEP
FEMA.
is asking for.
Yeah, FEMA made that determination on the property, and I saw her comments, but FEMA did make a determination of where the floodplain was. The pond has a dam on it, and they have determined that the floodplain was inaccurately depicted on their firm maps.
So I think
Anyway,
there's a little bit of confusion on that. So,
yeah.
so I think the
Okay,
the
well,
flood
it's my
the
understanding when I
floodplain.
worked with Charlotte that the events that occurred were that they were looking at under the old order of conditions that was still valid because of COVID, that we would approve as an amended order to that filing the two activities that took place during that time. And it was determined that a new notice of intent would be required for the new proposed work on the site, rather than trying to extend that order of conditions. If you go back and review the June 27th meeting, there are no minutes online, but I watched the video, and that was our understanding at the time. So we'll see what town council says, but that was my understanding.
All right. Thanks, Marianne.
Okay.
So, commissioners, are there any questions or comments?
Thomas, Jim,
Yep.
raise my hand. So how do we proceed? Do you want any comments on this plan now? I'm confused what the next step is.
Yeah, so I was hoping that we would have guidance from town council on exactly how to proceed. Verbally, the guidance that I've received is that we should be reviewing this entire plan de novo, including the violation.
Okay.
But since I don't have a letter that says that, I'm a little bit hesitant to proceed on that basis. Brian, I don't know if you possibly received that letter today in email. I assume I would have been CC'd on it, and so I didn't see anything.
I don't believe usually.
Yeah.
Well, I'll double check. I missed one email. I could have missed two.
So to finish answering your question, Jim, I think there's two paths forward that the commission can take. Path number one is to reconsider DEP's comments and treat the violation de novo and obtain all the information that DEP is requesting be provided regarding the loss of flood storage due to the violation. Path number two is that the commission can decide that since it had already addressed the violation, that even though that hearing never happened from a legal point of view, because it was never properly initiated, because DEP was never notified, that we nevertheless credit the applicant for all of the decisions made in those hearings and simply move forward with this plan. I'd be happy to hear the commission's opinion on that. I do think that we shouldn't make a decision until we've all had a chance to read the opinion from council. But I think those are pretty clearly the two extremes of how we proceed further. So I see both Bruce and Jim. Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing that we're going to need obviously is the decision from town council. But no matter how we proceed, I definitely think we need to, find a way to reconsider what DEP's comments, because now we've got those comments, so we definitely need to factor those into our decision. Brian just mentioned he didn't receive a communication from town council today. But the biggest thing is that I guess it's really waiting to hear from town council on how we should proceed. But I do want to make sure that we're reconsidering those DEP comments whichever path forward we take.
Thanks, Bruce. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so I agree with Bruce. We do have to consider those DEP comments. And I think the safe path is to wait for town council's opinion. I'm not comfortable doing anything until I read that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Mr. Arsenal, go ahead.
Yes. So just I can't explain to you all, how much that I'm looking to try to go to obviously path number 2. I've been fighting and going on with this since 2021, and I've been going and doing everything you all say, and I feel like I'm just always taking a step backwards and never moving forward, and it's so financially and energy draining. I just, I feel like everything I do, I'm doing the wrong thing, where I already admitted I apologize and I'm doing everything right, hiring everyone I can. And for me to get the okays, file the notice of intent after the fact, get the okay, like whose job was it to submit it all to be DEP? Was that my job? Was that my civil engineer's job? Was it your job?
I
Yeah,
have
so-
record that I submitted it to DEP back in June 20th of last year by email. I have no idea where it went and why they didn't know that it was happening. I simultaneously sent it to Charlotte Steves.
Marianne, if you could
Yeah.
send me that communication, that would be great.
Okay.
So I was unaware of that. So
Yeah.
before Brianna left the town's employ, she tried and she contacted DEP several times. In her communications with DEP, they said that they've never received anything on this project. So it would be good to know.
Okay.
Maybe we can connect some more dots.
Okay. I'll see what I can do.
Then I guess a couple more questions I have is like so I guess we're waiting on this town council, of course. What are they expecting to say, and what's the worst I can say? Like, it's just starting to scare me because again, I've tried, hired, and done everything I can, and getting hit with this is the worst news. It's like a nightmare. My house is in shambles. I have a garage falling apart, and my yard's all nasty, just falling apart. I want to just do it right and spend the money and bring this place up, make it 100%, So I just, what's the worst what's the worst like they're gonna say?
Well,
We could
the worst
appeal
that
it.
town council is going to say is that that we review this entirely de novo. That's the worst outcome.
And that means like I can't. That means like this was all just a waste.
It is what it is. To answer one of your previous questions, who was responsible for sending the information to DEP? That's the applicant's responsibility.
Yeah, and so like they're gonna just say no, you can't build nothing, and I have to leave like this.
No, that's not what the outcome will be. The outcome will be, the worst possible outcome. I don't want to speculate on on worst and best possible outcomes.
Well,
I could talk to you, Dominic, about different options.
okay, well, I'm just gonna pray, pray that, everyone, please, to the bottom of my heart, consider path number 2. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Arsenal. So, Jonathan, well, so before I move on to whether we do a continuance, commissioners, is there any further discussion you want to have about the plan changes that are in front of us today? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
I do have some questions about the plan, but are we going to do that or wait until we hear from town council? I thought earlier you said to wait.
Yeah, so what I mean by wait is wait to decide whether we are re-reviewing the violation.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Jim?
That makes more sense. So I'll ask my question about the plan then. So I see there's a 100-year floodplain line, John, on the plan.
Yep.
Horizontal. So how was that determined?
So that line is just taken graphically from the firm map. There was no base flood elevation. There was no flood study done on White's Pond. And so that's just pure the graphic image from the firm map. And so to go along with that, the plan references the Loma case that goes along with this lot, which stated any structure above elevation 405.2 is not considered in the floodplain. And so we don't know the base flood elevation, but as far as that line goes, it's just taken graphically.
So is it accurate? I guess we don't know if it's accurate, right?
No, I wouldn't say it's an accurate representation. With the Loma case stating the 405.2 of the structures are out of the floodplain, we could assume the base flood elevation would be below that 405.2 elevation.
Can you point to that on the plan? I'm sorry.
Point to the.
Sorry. I don't see your mouse pointer.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't exactly see the plan. Is my mouse showing up at all?
Not that I can see.
I'm not sure what happened. It's a little bit different than the last time I screen shared. So, but what did you want me to point out?
Just call it 45.2.
405.2.
405.2. Yep. And then with additional structures being on that property, does that not mean that we need more flood storage capacity?
So since these structures are above the floor elevations are above 405.2, we don't believe that these are in the floodplain, these structures.
Okay, yeah, I want to see. I can't find that 405.2 on the plan. Sorry.
So it's not the 405.2 isn't shown on the plan. But I can certainly show it if you'd like to see it on the plan.
So 406 is though, right? So 405 would be right. So, but 406 runs right through the center of the house.
Yep. And so again, the 405.2 is not the base flood elevation.
But is it difficult to get that information? So that's basically what DEP is asking for. Is that not correct?
Difficult to get the base flood elevation?
Yeah, so that we, right?
Yeah.
Is that not what they're asking for?
Talk to her as long as you want.
Yeah, that's something that we don't have. There's no study done.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you all set, Jim?
Yeah, I feel like that's something we need, but I also think that's something we're going to end up coming back to. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, Jim. Dennis, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I thought when we dealt with the previous order and the restorations, we had put the plantings in. So shouldn't they not be proposed and shouldn't they be in by now? So I guess this gets back to, is this covering everything we did before or is this going forward? But I thought the plan we approved this summer had the replantings there. So am I wrong there?
No, it did. And I'm to check them this spring to see that they've taken hold. They're the
Okay.
ones that I gave Dominic during the fall to put in the in amongst the riprap.
And we did do the plantings. So I know the site visit
Yes.
didn't see them, but I just want to, okay. So we're going to check them in the spring to make sure they're there.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess that's it for now.
Just to let everybody know, the plantings, it was just like a route that I, had, and I couldn't guarantee if they're gonna last or hold up. That was of the dogwood. I wanted to go ahead with actually nice blueberry, like clones, of course, thicker quality and a lot more, aged than what I have. That was my original plan, but I wanted to kind of do it all when I hired that landscape, specialist exterior. So that's kind of where I'm at. I just don't want you guys to come there and expect all this crazy stuff.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Arsenal. Dennis, you still have your hand up. You have more comments?
Nope, just didn't put it down. Apologize.
Okay. So I think, Jonathan, that I'd like to have a continuance so we can get the information from town council. Are you open to asking for a continuance?
Yeah, I'd like to ask for a continuance. Tom, I think you had mentioned when you do get that letter that you would be sending it to me also, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, I'll be
I will
looking out
send
for
it.
that then.
Yep. Continuance to the 27th is okay?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to continue to the 27th.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Bruce, seconded by Dennis to continue to the 27th. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
And Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. Thank you. Let's see.
Thank you, guys.
Next on our agenda, we have a continued notice of intent for Liggett Road box culvert repair. I believe Zygmunt, you are on the call.
Good evening. This is
Hope I
Zygmunt
said that right.
Olszewski. I'm the environmental chief at Fort Devens.
Welcome. Want to bring us up to date?
Yeah, so the initial meeting we had, it was asked by the commission that we do not touch the beaver dam that's been in place, and we are going with that. The project will be redesigned. If I could, I did send Mr. Keating a letter of our intent this morning, or maybe around lunchtime, stating that we would not touch this beaver dam. We will also do fish and wildlife survey or consultation, as well as National Pollution Discharge and Elimination System permitting for this project. Everything upstream and downstream of this exact culvert will be blocked off with runoff control, best management practices, and the actual project itself. These are concrete block culverts, and they will be drilling holes into the existing culvert to pump grout underneath to level it off. So there will be no disturbance to any of the wetlands.
All right, that actually sounds very encouraging. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Bruce.
I just appreciate all the effort behind this, and also not removing that beaver dam, and thank you, Tom, for bringing that up to begin with. But the fact that they've understood what we were looking for and went ahead with it.
Thanks, Bruce. Let the record show that Sean Windsor is now in the meeting. And commissioners, any other questions?
Evening, everybody. I apologize for the delay.
Right, so I assume you want a continuance to get us new plans. Is that correct?
The project is being contracted by the Army Corps. They need a go-ahead to have the new project redesigned by the vendor. So we are hoping that the letter I sent with a signature from our Director of Public Works stating that we would adhere to leaving the beaver dam in place and protecting the wetlands would be enough for us to get a motion to approve this project.
Okay, so the plan isn't going to be modified.
They have to contract the re-engineering of the design and the plan itself. So that's all part of the contracted activity, which they can't move forward with until I can give them a go-ahead. It's kind of our dilemma.
So we're kind of in a catch-22.
Something along those lines. If I have to go back to them, I will. But I was, like I said, hoping that our signed memorandum would be sufficient to move forward. But if not, that's okay. We can try again.
I'm just going back through my files, trying to see if we actually have a plan. I'm actually not seeing one yet.
This is Kyle Craft, the Natural Resources at Port Devens. I can share screen the plan I sent you.
Sure, please do.
So this was the original plan that we were given from Larry Corus, who's all inspection recommendations for the project. The only thing modifying it would be that we are not taking out the beaver dam, basically. And this was submitted back in, I think, August.
So I have the pictures. Was there an engineering drawing with this?
Yeah, there's like it's not like a full on. Let me see. See if I can find it. Yeah, it's just like a sketch.
Okay. This was in August, you said? Okay, I didn't go back far enough. Oh, it's a Word doc. Okay, that's okay. Okay, I do have this. Yes, I have this document you're sharing. So in light of the letter and the fact that we already have this document, commissioners, are you comfortable closing and issuing an order of conditions, I'd be happy to talk about the special conditions that we might put in there to specify some of what's in the letter that we received today. And that would potentially get us out of the catch-22.
I'm also more than willing, once we do have a new plan, to submit that as part of the order of conditions to be reviewed prior to work start, if that helps.
So in the past, the commission has gone back and forth on whether we would accept plans after the fact. I think we've recently had discussions about how that's not a good practice, and so I don't think that the commission is inclined to issue an order of conditions without a plan. I think that the letter and some special conditions would be sufficient. However, I want to hear from the other commissioners to see how they feel about that. Bruce, you have your hand up.
I'm comfortable with the plan that they've got plus the letter.
Any other comments from commissioners? Go ahead, Jim.
So I'm okay with it too. I think we should spend a moment discussing what the special conditions would be.
Yep, sounds good. Happy to hear any offerings. So I think simply saying what's already said in the letter, that the beaver dam would be protected and left undisturbed, that may be a sufficient condition. That's pretty broad. I don't know if there are additional conditions that folks would like to add.
So is that the only change, that the beaver dam is left untouched?
Yeah, from the original discussion, correct.
Okay.
Sean, you've got your hand raised.
Real quick, has the Board of Health signed in regards to the beaver dam?
So the beaver dam won't be removed, so there's really no need to sign on. This is on the Army base, so it's not really affecting anything. I don't know if that answers your question, Sean.
Well, it does. I just want to sort of make sure that we're sort of dotting our I's.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Any other discussion, commissioners? Any comments from the general public on this? Not seeing any, so I'd be happy to take a motion to close the hearing and a motion to issue the order.
If I can do a combined one, I'll make that motion.
So we haven't ever done combined before. I'd prefer that we just do them separately. So motion is made to close the hearing. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard. Dennis, you're on mute. Dennis. Oh, actually, I see now that Dennis is not at his chair. Okay, Dennis is no vote or abstain. Now I'd be happy to take a motion to issue an order of conditions with a special condition for protecting the beaver dam.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further motion's been made by Sean, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? All right, this will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard. Is not at the computer. And Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. Okay. Right.
Thank you all very much. Your time is very much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
All
everyone.
right. Next on our agenda, we have a notice of intent for McGovern Boulevard construction of roadway extension, associated cul-de-sac, retaining walls, utilities, and stormwater management. Let me read the notice into the record. Is this the right one? Yes, this is the right one. Town of Lancaster Conservation Commission Notice of Public Hearing, February 13th, 2024. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Lancaster Wetlands Protection Bylaw, the Town of Lancaster Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing via Zoom on February 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m. to hear and act upon the following matter. A notice of intent filed by William DePietri of 702 LLC, located at 295 Turnpike Road, Suite 100, Southborough, Mass., applicant and property owner, relative to the construction of two proposed lots, a roadway extension, an associated cul-de-sac, retaining walls, utilities, and a stormwater management area. The property is located at McGovern Boulevard, Lancaster, Mass., and is identified as Assessor's Map 8, Parcel 45, and Assessor's Map 14, Parcel 4D. Copy of the application and accompanying documents are on file at the Office of Community Development and Planning, 701 Main Street, Lancaster, Mass., 978-365-3326, extension 1059. Right, who do we have on the call to present us this project?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Nathan Mahonen with Bowler Engineering, here tonight on behalf of the applicant. We do have Bob DePietri on the line as well, representing the applicant themselves.
All right, welcome. Why don't you show us your project?
Yeah, let me share the screen here and make sure everybody can see it. Is that being displayed? Just make sure that's visible to everyone.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect. So we start with a little bit of a history. As the commission may recall, we were in front of you back in October for an extension of the existing order of conditions for this property and the proposed extension of McGovern Boulevard. That extension was granted at that time. Since then, the applicant has been back in front of the planning board for a subdivision plan that's shown here to further divide the property into two parcels. The purpose and intent of this application with the board was solely to freeze the current zoning on the property that the applicant has spent significant amount of time working with the town to develop. And when we went in front of the planning board at that first hearing, they did request that we file with the commission for the work within the buffer zone. So we are here tonight with a formal application and notice of intent for the proposed subdivision extension as shown. And to get into a little bit more specifics, this project is very similar to the one that was approved in 2020. The roadway is in the same location and the access from McGovern Boulevard is the same spot, and it follows an existing haul road in both location and elevation on the site as it comes up and into the site. It is the only means of egress for the property. So as discussed back in 2020 and similar here, this is the only means of egress and requires work within the 25-foot no-build zone. So the application does include a waiver for work within that restricted zone. There is a proposed retaining wall on the side of the roadway in this area here that is being used to minimize work within the 25-foot as well as maintain development outside of any resource area. So there is no impact to any of the resource area as part of proposed development, and work is within the buffer zone only. As the commission will recall, on the extension request back in October, the wetland consultant did go out and look at the resource areas proximate to the proposed extension. Did refresh those. There were some minor modifications to the 2 areas up front, and those revisions to the resource areas are reflected on the plans as submitted to the commission under this application. You can see that the overlay of the old subdivision road, which ended in here under the previous application. This cul-de-sac has been extended and moved down. And one of the benefits of doing that is that's actually going to pull the grading for the cul-de-sac bulb away from the resource area. So we're actually able to tighten up the grading in this area, remove a riprap slope and a proposed retaining wall that went up to the 25-foot buffer, and really tighten up the grading right up to the edge of the road here, as the road is now following existing grade all the way up to the top level area that's up at the top of the hill here. So it's a good improvement from the original application and extending the road a little bit further into the site. Stormwater management will be designed in accordance with state and local regulations. All runoff from the roadway and the proposed development will be captured and conveyed to a new stormwater basin in the corner here with adequate pretreatment, treatment, water quality volume, infiltration, and peak rate control in accordance with standards. There was a site walk that was done with Brianna before she left the employee of the town just a week or so ago. Didn't receive any formal comments from her coming out of the walk. I don't know if she sent anything from the commission that we would want to discuss and review this evening, but I haven't seen anything coming into it. One thing that the commission should be aware of as well is that the design is being peer reviewed by Haley and Ward through the planning board application and the subdivision process. They are looking at the project inclusive of the stormwater management design. We have received their first comment letter just the other week. The comments do seem relatively minor in nature, and we do feel like that we'll be able to address them. There's a couple comments where they're asking for some more information under the MS4 bylaw and a couple of additional information relative to construction of utilities, but nothing major at this point. So we do feel like those comments will be addressed through the peer review and subdivision process. That's really the summary and the extent of the project at this time. Happy to answer any questions, obviously, that the commission may have this evening. And if we need to switch plans or switch control, please let me know, and I'll stop sharing what I have up here.
All right, thank you, Nathan. So we did have, before she left, Brianna did prepare a site visit summary. I just assumed that you would have received that, so we will get that out to you.
Sure.
Brian, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, I did have a discussion with Brianna before she left and after the site visit. And again, I assume that she would have forwarded these, some of these comments that she had to me to the board and to Nathan. Now I don't know if this is exhaustive, but one concern she had, and I've also mentioned this to Haley Ward. So there's a culvert somewhere towards the beginning of the road.
Yes, correct.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's some concern about the health of that culvert as existing, and could there be any and if full depth pavement construction of the road is to happen, what do we have any assurances that culvert will be stabilized or repaired or maintained in a good condition post development?
Yeah, so we can address these one at a time as we go through it. That's easiest for everyone. The existing culvert, as far as I know, is in good condition. There's been no signs or indication that it's in disrepair or not functioning hydraulically, connecting the one wetland side to the other. It was actually flowing when we were out there during the site walk. There was active flow in this area coming out of the culvert. I think we could certainly work with the planning board or the commission for a condition that culvert is to be inspected prior to construction and post-construction to make sure that it's in good repair post-construction. And if it's not, then the culvert should be repaired and replaced so that it maintains its functionality.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So it's just a question whether the here or with this planning board as the stormwater authority that perhaps it's the culvert is noted, existing culvert is noted, and it's included in the storm operation and maintenance plan moving forward.
No objection on our end, including it in the operation and maintenance plan for the stormwater system.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thanks, Brian. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. Sorry, I was slow on that, raising my hand. Could you describe a little the stormwater basin area, how that works? And I believe it's in an ACEC. And where does it discharge?
Correct. So the stormwater management for the roadway will be collected by a series of catch basins with deep sump conveyed into a new forebay in this location here. And then that will discharge into an infiltration basin. And the outlet is discharging southeast of the the proposed roadway towards the wetland system. The work and the discharge here is outside the 100-foot buffer. It is inside the 200-foot intermittent stream buffer under the local bylaw and within the ACC, as you mentioned. But this area over here is all previously disturbed. It's all been cut open, and it's actually currently being used as temporary sediment basins from the old gravel operation that was there. So we're looking to analyze and repurpose this previously disturbed area for the new stormwater management system.
I see. Okay, and what kind of maintenance will be required on this basin?
It's basin maintenance is usually biannual for the most part. There are some more frequent maintenance requirements for cutting and pruning and making sure you have proper access to get into the basin. Those are all outlined in the operation and maintenance plan that was submitted with the drainage analysis and are in compliance in accordance with DEP state standards.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Nathan, so just to confirm, the initial portion of this road is essentially the same exact layout as before, all the way up to where the cul-de-sac used to be, right?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Right here. Correct.
And then just to confirm what I think I see on the plan, there's two catch basins near the bottom of the hill. Yeah, pretty much where your mouse is.
Correct.
Those convey the stormwater all the way to the basin at the bottom of the plan. Is that correct?
Correct. This is the conveyance route into the basin.
Okay.
So we're capturing everything from the connection to the existing roadway, piping it against grade to get to the existing basin. But there is a substantial drop off from the roadway down to this corner. So there's sufficient elevation and distance to get it to there with appropriate conveyance and treatment.
Okay. And the limit of work is marked on the plan. It's not entirely clear to me. It ends pretty much right on the other side of the culvert there at the stream. Sorry, the other end. Yeah.
Yeah, it ends right on the other side as you get the pavement connection and saw cut. You need to saw cut out an existing portion to tie it in and connect the two pavement sections together.
And just to confirm, the road, there's an existing order of conditions. Is there an existing order of conditions for that road on that side?
For McGovern?
Yeah. I know there's an existing order of conditions for the stream crossing over McGovern Brook.
Correct.
600 feet to the east. But my question is, the paving here for McGovern, that's just to the east of this limit of work. Is there or is there not an order for that? Was that incorporated in the stream crossing work? I have a vague recollection that roadway extended to the beginning where you have the limit of work on this plan, but I'm not positive. And one of the reasons, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd asked Bob DePietri if he can chime in and at his recollection as to what might have been permitted under the previous design for the crossing, if it included anything relative to the extent or to the rest of existing McGovern Boulevard.
Yes, Nathan. There's an existing order of conditions on McGovern Boulevard from the 702 land out to Lunenburg Road, and that's under North Lancaster LLC.
Okay, thanks. So Brian, I think one of the recommendations that Brianna had made before she left the town was that we have this peer reviewed for Concom, independent of the stormwater peer review.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe so. I don't know if she's okay. I don't know whether we've contracted or put out propositions, proposals, requests for proposals from anyone. I'll follow up on that, and that wasn't communicated to me that she had done that. But there is overlap. I mean, Nathan did say at the beginning that they are responding to this initial Haley and Ward peer review, and so there's a few things. I don't know if last I spoke to Nathan, they were preparing their responses to this, so I don't know if it's appropriate to ask them to speak on these tonight. But for instance, a second slope easement opposite the existing the proposed one on the south or the east side. But there's a few other areas where collapse with this NOI, and so I could be happy to share those responses with the commission as they come back to the planning board as well.
Yeah, so I think that's good to have the stormwater peer review come to the commission. But I also think that the commission has additional concerns outside of the stormwater, right? So this is this includes the buffer zone and the no touch. I think it's appropriate to peer review the wetland aspects of that, and I don't think that would be covered under the stormwater review.
Okay, sure. So if you like, I could follow up on get a request for proposals out tomorrow. I can speak to you offline about who you normally would use, or if the applicant has suggestions, or we can certainly start to follow up on that tomorrow and get this peer review going.
Yeah, if I may, to the extent that it's peer reviewed on behalf of the commission, we'd ask that the commission rely on Haley and Ward for the stormwater aspects, as they are currently engaged with the planning board for review, and we do have comments from them. If a separate reviewer is needed for the wetlands aspect, right, for compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act, the local wetland bylaw, et cetera, I don't think there's an objection to a separate peer reviewer for that. We just want to minimize any overlap of comments or review content so that we can try to be as efficient as possible getting through the peer review process.
Yep, I understand that concern. Bruce, you've got your hand raised.
Sure. And also when it comes to, like, when the peer review is done, also just, when it comes to the basin too, just, making sure that's going to support what is there and built for as well.
Understood. And we are happy to copy the commission on the response to Haley and Ward, so we can send it directly to you rather than going through the board if that's easier.
Sure. Well, I mean, it all goes to the office, so.
Yeah. We'll make sure you get separate copies directly.
Thanks. Commissioners, any further comments or questions? Are there any comments or questions from the general public? Not seeing anything. So I assume you'll be asking for a continuance. Do you want it to the next meeting or farther out?
I don't know how long it's going to take the town to engage. We could certainly do it to the next meeting, and if the consultant isn't lined up for review, we'd be happy to look at an alternate date at that time.
Okay, sounds fair.
Yeah, I don't think, but a peer review would be at least, received and available for review, by both the applicant and the commission in time for the next meeting. Maybe the first meeting in March, perhaps.
Yeah, if we want to give some adequate time and buffer in there, the applicant is not in a rush to get this, approved in one meeting or two meetings. So we do have time on our end. If we want to say the second meeting in March, I think that would be appropriate and hopefully give us enough time to review any comments that come in and respond accordingly.
Okay, so I believe that's March 26th. Let me just confirm on an actual calendar.
Oh, no.
Yeah, March 26th is the second in March. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right, so I'd be happy to take a motion.
I'll make a motion for continuance to March 26th.
I'll second it.
All right, so Bruce has made a motion to continue to the 26th. Sean has seconded. Any further discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for your time.
Apologize for having to step away during that last hearing. Had a little dog emergency I had to take care of.
It's okay. Life happens. Okay, let's see. Next up on our agenda, we have ratify sign enforcement order for 2038 Lunenburg Road. I believe we have Attorney Campobasso on the line. So
yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. So why don't we just get the ratification out of the way? So I think, commissioners, you saw the enforcement order come out a few weeks ago. If there's no objection, I'd be happy to take a motion to ratify. If you want discussion prior to that, I'd be happy to have a little bit of discussion, and then we can talk about. We'll get an update about the status of the site.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to make a motion, but I just want to make sure that Attorney Campobasso has an opportunity to speak.
Yes, we're not going to end the discussion after the vote to ratify. We're definitely going to get an update. Attorney Campobasso, I don't know if you wanted to speak before we did.
If I could just
Sure.
maybe mention one thing and possibly ask the commission to consider. I believe one of the requirements is that the applicant prepare a restoration plan within 30 days. We are in the process of retaining a wetland scientist. If at all possible, maybe if that 30 days could possibly be 60 days. I'm not exactly sure when we will get someone on board and how much time they will have to go to the site and do some investigation. And with this, so I mean, as long as if we can do it in 30 days, we will, but I wouldn't want that to be a problem.
No, I think that's fair. As long as we see that you're making progress, you're talking to us and you ask for permission. So I think I'd be happy to hear comments from the commission, but I'm okay to give you that grace. Commissioners, go ahead, Bruce.
I'm okay as well. I think that's fair.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. So let's get the ratification out of the way, and then we can discuss the current status. So I'd be happy to take a motion to ratify the enforcement order, or unless there's discussion about that.
If there's none, I'll make that motion.
Yeah, second the motion.
All right, motions have been made by Sean and seconded by Jim to ratify the enforcement order. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. All right. So I don't know, Attorney Campobasso, is someone from Haley and Ward on the call?
Yes,
Talk about that?
Wes Fliss is on the call with us. Hopefully
All
the
right, Wes?
commission
Here, can you hear
did
me?
receive his response letter.
Yeah, Tom, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Welcome.
So I don't know where you want us to start on this. If you want us to
You want to
the
go
enforcement
through
order?
you want to go through your response letter?
Yeah, I could do that. Yep, we could do that. And so we had gotten the enforcement order from Brianna. What was it, January 30th? I had issued a letter on February 9th in response to that. And so item number one had to do with the restoration plan. Obviously, the concern with Bowbrook and Fort Pond, the intersection where Bowbrook and Fort Pond converge, and then also the outlet of Fort Pond on the other side of the culvert. And so, as Mr. Campobasso had stated, we are working to retain a wetland scientist to prepare that restoration plan to take care of that item. And so, obviously, as we get further along, we can give you guys updates. We've been trying to, even after the enforcement order came out, we've been obviously trying to keep in contact with the commission on this item, with this project. So as soon as we know the restoration plan and a date, we can let you guys know when that's going to be completed. Item number two had to do with Bowbrook and it being listed as a cold water fishery. We aren't disagreeing with that the Bowbrook is listed as a cold water fishery. And therefore listed as a critical area. Number three and number four kind of tied together because the cold water fishery in the this being a critical area, this creates our stormwater management designed to make sure that we are in compliance to the DEP requirements for discharge to a cold water fishery. And so kind of got into the little history of the project in my response to number 4. And I'm not sure, I know there's some newer members on the commission. I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, if you want me to get into a little bit of the history on how this project got here design-wise, or if you want to just kind of move along in this process, I can do whatever you guys want to do with regards to the history of the stormwater management. You know, I can get to the weeds of that if you want a little bit. I can share the plans if you want.
I think that might, yeah, a little bit of background might be helpful also as a refresher for the rest of us too.
Sure.
That's fair.
Let me share my screen here. Okay, so Lunenburg Road being here, the new subdivision road being here. These are the original plans that were done by New England Engineering that were submitted to the planning board, but at the time, there was no work proposed within the jurisdiction of the commission, right? This dark line here is the 200-foot riparian zone. So the design at the time was to keep everything out of the 200-foot riparian zone. 100-foot riparian zone is shown in this location here. During the, I guess, previous enforcement order issued by the commission, there was some silt at the time before this basement was constructed that got down into the brook. And so, there was an initial enforcement order that happened then. The developers no longer were using New England Engineering. We got involved with the project. The commission and the planning board also got CEI involved as doing peer review during that process. And so what had happened is we went out there. The first item that we had to take care of is we had to do a test pit in the detention basin area. The original plan called for this as an infiltration basin, but to be an infiltration basin, you have to have 2 feet offset to groundwater with a mounting study, or 4 feet offset to groundwater. When we did the test pit out in this area here, we did not find the necessary depth to groundwater for this basin to be considered an infiltration basin. And so, if I can just get to this other document here, and we'll kind of talk, and we'll kind of go back and forth some of the comments later on, is when we look at DEP's best management practices for cold water fisheries, an infiltration basin, which that basin was originally categorized as, is an allowed BMP within, for cold water fisheries. But because of the soil testing, it was no longer an infiltration basin. As part of the redesign of the project, after we got involved, we end up putting in some infiltration trenches along the frontage of the commercial property, such that when the runoff comes out into the street drainage, there's a wear in the manhole here, such that the smaller storms are directed into the infiltration trenches, and then the larger storms will still go into the basin. Again, I'm going to go back to that chart there. Infiltration trenches are an allowed BMP for cold water fishery. And so that was one of the things that we looked at, because we're in the groundwater for this basin, and we don't, the design of the basin had to be modified. For the basin to drain between storms, we needed to put a subdrain in the basin for the basin to drain between storms, which I know we discussed at the last meeting. Part of that is really what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get this subdrain offline. Since the last meeting and during that last rain event that caused this enforcement order that we're talking about now, the applicant actually did get out there and they capped the end of the pipe, but there was still some runoff getting through the stone that went through that pipe. And so one of our items later on in our letter we'll talk about is we are looking at trying to get into this end of the pipe, kind of rip it up a little bit, and then plug it with some clay. Because it's actually rather soft out there right now. We haven't really got a deep freeze. The basin's rather soft. The contractor's a little leery about going out there right this second about trying to cap that right now on this end, because he's worried he's going to create even more of an issue. So that is something that's on our list to kind of look at, is if we can get into there and cap this end of it, such that can be capped for the remainder of the construction of the development. And then once the construction is completed, then we'll open that back up once everything else is stabilized, when we're getting clean water out of the basin. So those are the items there for, they're really 3 and 4 on the enforcement order. Number 5, obviously.
Wes, I don't mean to interrupt, but if I could just add a little more context to the background. So as Wes was stating, originally, the original plans, when construction started in 2021, that was the first rain event where some siltation got into the roadway and went down Lunenburg Road. And as he stated, that the detention basin was not constructed. That's when the cease and desist order was issued in September of 2021. As a result of that cease and desist, there was a partial lifting. And one of the things that was required by the commission was that we have peer review, and that's where comprehensive environmental was retained by both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. And the redesign was basically back and forth between Haley Ward and CEI, so that the chambers that were installed, the weir, and all of these different designs to the detention basin, those items were discussed and peer reviewed with CEI. And when we came back before the planning board and the commission last August and last September, the requests were to get a complete lifting of the cease and desist so that they could in fact go in and finish installation of the chambers and construction of a detention basin.
Okay, so the next items that would be 5, 6, 7. Just make sure I have these right. And 8 will all be taken into consideration in the development of the restoration plan. And so, even like, there was there was talk about the completion date of the restoration work, and if we can get this restoration plan completed, that's what we're talking about time frame. Really, if we can get this restoration plan completed within the next couple months, get this reviewed by the commission, and I guess I don't know if CEI probably be the logical choice since they're already involved with this. The restoration work, at least with a suggestion that was done on the enforcement order, was between May 1st and August 30th. So I think we have hopefully enough time in between to prepare this restoration plan and get it signed off on, so we can get going on that as soon as possible. Number 9 has to do with understanding that the erosion control measures are being taken care of. One thing since the enforcement order had been issued, and we did reach out to the commission to make sure you guys are aware of this, is so in this area over here, where lot 23, 22, and 24, there's a temporary basin in that area of the development that was there before. And so what the contractor has done is he's made that temporary basin bigger, and then before this last manhole, put a new manhole in and directed the water in the drainage system in the street toward that temporary basin. What we're trying to do is get a lot of the runoff, at least from the street, away from the detention basin, to allow for the detention basin to grow and stabilize when the spring comes. Because the basin was done later on in 23, the basin didn't get completely stabilized before the winter came. And so we, obviously I know the commission has made note of it in the past about some of the slumping of the basin and some of the erosion of the basin. So what we're trying to do is limit the amount of water that's going to that basin during construction, at least until that area of the site gets stabilized. And then we can put the drainage system back the way it was supposed to be. Just for point of clarification for the commission, is none of the catch basins are alive right now. They're actually all buried. They have metal covers over them right now. and they're buried under the street. None of them are connected into the system. So there's very little water getting into the system right now. During that last rain event, before the enforcement order was issued, we were actually out there opening the last manhole down at the street just to see how much water was getting to that manhole during that rain event. And there wasn't a lot of water getting to that through those covers. And so, after this basin was constructed, there's not a lot of water getting that way. It's more, seems like overland. And that's where it seems like a lot of the erosion was occurring just from the basin itself. So, if we can limit some of the water getting to the basin in the spring, that's what we're trying to do by putting that temporary basin and getting a lot of that water directed to there as they continue to move forward with this project. And then obviously, as we get moving too, they'll take a look at what other erosion control measures they need to add on the site, and are willing to work with the commission on whatever you guys need out there to take care of this issue. 10 and 11 have to do the restoration plan. Like I said, they're going to retain somebody to do the restoration plan. They'll take into consideration all these recommendations from Brianna and the commission on the development of that. And I think once they get out there and really see what impact this project had on the resource areas out there, they'll have a better idea of what they want to do for the restoration plan. So 12, 13, and really our additional comments kind of get into here. And so 12 had to do with an alternatives analysis for the detention basin, because it being a suitable managing discharges near to a critical area. And then the alternatives analysis may consider factors such as cost, scope of alternatives, evaluation of alternatives, and no significant impact. And so, and this is where I had proposed a few different options, and I can kind of go over that. The one item I want to point out, though, is the detention basin is a critical component of this drainage system, because we do still need to meet stormwater management standard 2, the peak rate attenuation, right, which we need to, at least balance the post-development runoff rates leaving the site to the pre-development runoff rates. And so the detention basin is a necessary component to the project to meet that standard. However, when we deal with, and we've dealt with a number of projects like this where we're near a critical area, be a cold water fishery or any of the other critical areas that are listed in the handbook, typically what we do is we do multiple BMPs, right? One to meet the pre and the post, which would be the basin. Another item in this case would be, an item that would really, it's stormwater management standard 4 that comes into play on this one, which is water quality. And really, we're going to meet get BMPs together that would meet that stormwater quality standard, which they hold us to a higher standard because of the cold water fishery. And so what we proposed really were 3 options, and I listed as our preferred option would be to shorten the pipe run to the basin, such that we put a swale in at the end of a pipe for reference. And we haven't done a design plan yet because we want to present this to you before, or possibly to CEI if you bring them back on to review our options, was to put a swale in to a filter strip before the basin. Those are both items on this chart where they have water quality swales, either a dry or wet water quality swales are on this, and then vegetated filter strips. And so these are a couple different items that are allowed under the chart in the Stormwater Management Handbook for BMPs adjacent to cold water fisheries. And so those are just a couple things that we are proposing to provide before the basin to meet the water quality requirement for that cold water fishery. The other 2 options that we looked at, and one would be just to put a water quality treatment device in between the last manhole and the basin. That becomes pretty cost prohibitive for something of this size when we're dealing with the entirety of the drainage system coming down the street and then into the basin. To get that in there and then to maintain it, every year, the cost of that doesn't really outweigh, I think, the benefits. And actually, even from a standpoint of, I think the preferred option is more natural, being a swale and a filter strip, but this would be more of a mechanical option. And the last option that we could do would be make this infiltration area bigger, and we could be talking 2 to 3 times bigger than what's currently there now. Concern is obviously doing work right next to the existing trenches, the cost of that system, but also now limiting what we could do on the commercial property, because now we'd be taking up a much larger footprint underneath that parking lot. And so it would make the development of that property a little more complex. And so, like I said, those are the 3 options that we looked at. The other 2 options not being the preferred options, but they're still under there where, the proprietary separators are allowed, and then the infiltration trenches, like I said before, that are also allowed under these BMPs. But those are the things that we looked at. I know obviously you guys are in between agents again. I know we had a chance to speak with Mr. Keating about that. I'm not sure if it would make more sense maybe to get CEI back involved to review that. But that's kind of, I guess regards to the enforcement order. But, as I already stated, I know the applicant and the developer, they're already out there doing the infiltration base, the additional temporary sediment basin out here. One of the things that we talked about the contractors about is there's not a lot of water coming out of the construction entrance, but there's a little bit of water coming out of that entrance. We had talked to them just making sure they berm that up again a little bit. The construction entrance had been driven over a number of times, so the berm that was there before had been kind of worn out. And so that was one of the things we mentioned to them, was kind of getting that berm back in place here, because we did see a little bit of dirty water coming down the shoulder, down the gutter of Lunenburg Road, and it came out right over. Actually, it's a little further down on the plan, right adjacent to where the outlet of that subdrain was. And so if they put a berm in here and just get the water coming back toward the basin, and then we had suggested maybe putting a little bit of maybe straw wattles or straw bales down where that gutter line breaks in Lunenburg Road, because there's some dirty water coming down into that swale from Lunenburg Road. And like I said, we couldn't discern if it was from Lunenburg Road all, or if it was from the site also. So we just suggested maybe put a little bit of erosion control barrier there, just to kind of clean up that area, just to make sure that there was no additional dirty water getting into the swale that's below that pipe. And then again, like I said before, the contractor, as the site gets more solid in the spring, they will take a look at trying to cap that other end of the subdrain. But those are the things that we're looking at. Now I can answer any questions the commission members have, at least with regards to those items, or if they have any other questions with regards to what we're trying to accomplish here.
All right. Thanks, Wes. Commissioners, questions or comments? Go ahead, Bruce.
So there's the 3 different things that they're proposing, and he had mentioned about the possibility of bringing CEI in, back in, maybe they could be a good resource in order to figure out which one's going to be the best thing to do. We want to make sure that obviously it'd be nice to do something that's going to be as cost effective as possible for the applicant, but at the same time we want something that's going to work. And having that swale with the filter strip there, was that going to be enough? Is that going to solve the solution? So maybe bringing CI in could help out to help determine what's going to be the best course of action.
Thanks, Bruce. Any other comments? Yeah, there was. I don't know who that was.
It was me, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't sure if any other commission members had any comments first. But to Mr. McGregor's point, we have recently brought CEI back into the picture with the planning board for the roadway inspections I did work with Brian Keating to get that proposal put through. So it probably shouldn't be too difficult to speak with them and have them incorporate that into their proposal.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So Wes, I think you said that all of the existing manhole covers are blocked. So what water is getting into the system? Like, how is water getting into the system today?
There's only a small bit of water, so it's there. All they have is like metal covers on it. They're not solid covers, so there's a little bit of water just kind of leaching in from the covers. So they're all buried. All the catch basins are buried. All the manholes are buried, but they don't have the manhole frames and covers on them. So there's just a small bit of water that gets into the system. So as they move along, trying to get the road paved, and once they get the road paved, then the hope is that they'll get the catch basins live and get some of the water above the street down into this temporary basin, so that we're getting less overland flow to the detention basin. And then hopefully get it stabilized in the spring, be able to repair what they need to repair in the spring. And once that's done and the commission's comfortable with that and the planning board's comfortable with it, then we can eliminate this connection out here. But until that's done, it makes a lot more sense to divert as much water as we can to a temporary basin.
So I understand the temporary basin, and I appreciate that. But the problem I'm having, so I haven't seen the site in the middle of a rainstorm. I've only been out there after rainstorms. But in looking at the pictures that I have, and hearing you say that the existing system is largely inoperative, honestly, I'm having a little trouble squaring the video that a resident shared with us during a peak of a storm with my understanding. It seems like the claim is that just overland. So maybe that the channel that was eroded into the side at lot 2, so I guess that would be on the southern side of the basin. I think north is.
To the left, yeah.
So I mean, I guess I could believe that there was a large amount of water coming in there, and then if it really was not ponding in this detention base, yeah, I guess I can understand. But not having seen it, I am having a little difficulty squaring that with then the future conditions where now all those catch basins are in fact collecting all the water. Isn't that going to be an awful lot more water? So now I'm less certain that I understand what solutions are.
Well, the solution, we need to get the site stable, and that really
Sure.
All right, let me answer two questions.
Understand.
So the amount of water that's getting to the basin now, right, because of the road's not fully operational, is we're getting a lot more water coming down this way because the street's not cutting anything off, right? So we're seeing a lot more water coming down into the basin. Once the street is operational, then you'll get all the water above the street going to a temporary basin over here. And then really the only water that will go to the basin afterwards is anything above it, which would be this area here. And so by what we were looking at and so we were, like I said, we were out there the day of the storm and the day, even the day afterwards when we were opening some of the structures to look at some of the other stuff. So we looked at the pipe coming into the basin. The pipe coming into the basin is as clean as, you would see a pipe at this point in the construction. The only sediment we found was a little bit of sediment at the flared end, which we know was there from before the basin was constructed. But the pipe itself was very, very clean. The sediment that looks like it's getting into the basin is from the area just from these slopes because it's not all stabilized. So really, it's if we can get as much of the water going into the basin so that it doesn't keep picking up the sediment in the basin is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to not eliminate, but cut off as much water we can that's supposed to be going into the basin once the road is live, or really what's going in there now. So by putting it in that temporary basin, getting the road to get live, and then getting the water to go this way, why we stabilize the basin and getting all this growing during the spring is really ideally what we need to do. In the meantime, like I said, we've capped this end. We're going to cap this end eventually, and they got to plug it such that it can't get through the stone, so that the basin now will just fill up with water, and then they'll have to take care of that during the construction period. But that subdrain isn't supposed to be live during the construction phase.
Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, more to your question, I think what we have to keep in perspective is right now with the construction site as it is, as Wes correctly pointed out, a lot of the water is directly flowing down into the basin. But what I think the commission needs to understand is with the improvements that were put in place based on the Haley Ward report of February 23 that was peer reviewed by CEI. Once the roadway is constructed, the catch basins alive in the berms direct the water. The intent of the chambers on lot 24, the majority of the water is going to go into those chambers first before it makes its way to the detention basin. And in addition to the chambers, the weir that was put in to the roadway entrance will act as an additional barrier so that water will stay in the chambers. And in heavy rain events, only at that time would the water go from the chambers above the weir into the detention basin. So the way it was redesigned, the intent was to get as much of the runoff to go into the chambers on lot 24 and just naturally filter back in to the ground instead of just going directly into the basin and then filtering out. So that's how the design is intended to work. The real difficulty that the applicant is having is it's been a stop and start with construction, and unfortunately, the detention basin just did not have enough growing season or growing opportunity to stabilize, so that a lot of the silt that's running from the detention basin into that pipe, it just didn't have a chance to stabilize.
Yeah. I understand the problem that we find ourselves in is in part due to the season it was constructed, and that part I get. So I'm just, Wes, I'm also noticing something else while looking at the pictures. So I was trying to see the forebay again. I was trying to see if I had a picture of water running in there. I don't have that, but now that I have a picture that I'm looking at right now, I'm noticing that there's significantly less trees in this picture than shown on the plan that you're sharing with us. I would say that the angle is not exactly ideal for making this comparison, but I will just kind of state that the plan you're showing us shows lot 4 as mostly forested, and I would say from this picture I'm looking at that lot 4 is mostly bare. So my question to you would be, the stormwater management plan, I assume, was it created with the amount of forest shown on this plan.
I'll have to take a look at. So let me just, I don't know if I can find the document.
I'd be happy
So
to show the
I know what we
picture that I'm
typically do
looking.
is for this type of development, we'll do it for the size of the lot for a residential development being 3/4 of an acre. And so it's a general runoff number for each lot. That number takes the whole lot as lawn and house, percentage of impervious surface. Usually that number is conservative in nature, but I can double check that. I'll have to look at what we have. I didn't do the calcs for this, so I'll have to check with the guy that did the calcs. I can get that answer for you.
And part of the reason I'm asking is because that is a pretty steep slope there, right? That's where the hill rises. You can see that slope on lot 4 bare in this picture that I'm looking at, and be happy to share that picture.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Okay. I think it was in the set of pictures that Brianna took as part of the enforcement order.
Right.
So that was just an observation I was just making just now as we were having this discussion. So I think that's it for my comments. Commissioners, any more comments or questions? So I think Attorney Campobasso, the next step is you'll be coming back with a restoration plan. We're hoping to see that in 60 days.
Yes, if the commission likes, you can keep this on the agenda. If you want us to report back in 30 days to give you a status, we can do that. I'm sure we're still waiting for DEP, but we did make the contact as I stated. Well, I have made contact with Thomas Rabula. He does have everything and regarding the notice of intent filing, so we're still waiting on that as well. But I can stay in touch with Brian or yourself as far as when we retain the wetland scientist and when we anticipate the restoration plan. If you want us to appear again, we'll do that, or once we have it, we can decide to present it.
I think we can play that by ear. I don't feel the need to put a date on a calendar at this time. Brian, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sure. So for Peter and Wesley, just for clarification, on for the solution to the order of the enforcement order now, what is the role of the construction of the road? Do you need to be working on this road? Do you need to have it graded? Do you need to have a binder coat for this diversion of water to go away from the basin? Just for clarification for the planning board side, I guess I'm looking. They're going to want to know. So I guess my question is: do you need to start construction on the road in terms of at least in grading to get to this resolution?
If I understand the next steps that need to take place, the conduit pipe for the electrical service needs to be installed in the shoulder. And once that is done, then the base coat can be placed. And I think those are the next steps. We were contemplating going out and putting the conduit in so we could try to line up doing the base coat. But in speaking with Ron Coyview, he was more comfortable with waiting to come before the commission tonight to make sure there weren't any other concerns. So I'll work with him to try to get a schedule of the next construction steps, and we'll let both the planning board and the commission know when the applicant will be out there completing those steps.
Okay, but I guess my question more is in order to divert, like you say, a big part of this problem is the solution here is to let the basin, the detention basin, stabilize, and by diverting as much water as possible away from it and into these temporary sumps or these temporary basins. Is there any phase of the road construction necessary for that to happen?
Yes. So I think in my conversations with Ron Coyview, the once the electrical conduit is installed, they can start working on the base coat. And one of the things that he is considering is putting in some of the berms that will direct the water into the catch basins. That's going to put it into the system and bring it down to those chambers on lot 24.
Okay, so for this, so for the mediation of this issue, the road construction, the sooner the road construction starts, the better the chance that the detention basin is going to stabilize, and the sooner it'll let you get into, take care of that subdrain. Okay, all right. So I just need to give the planning board a sense of what is in front of them in terms of scheduling and phasing. And I know you're before the planning board on the 26th with these documents and the road building covenant. So okay, so I think they're going to want to understand what's at stake.
Okay, I'll make sure we have a more detailed construction sequence.
Okay, yeah. But if that's necessary, if the planning board doesn't want to move forward with the road construction, that's going to further impede and lengthen the recovery period for this detention basin.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, okay. Want to be clear with that.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Peter.
Any further comments or discussion, commissioners? All right, I don't think this is not a public hearing, so I don't think there's a need for a continuance. I guess we'll keep in touch. Any further comments, Attorney Campabasso?
No, I think we understand, and I will keep I will stay in touch with Brian. I'll keep you informed as well as things develop.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Great. All right, next up on the agenda, we have the Nashua River Watershed Association Riparian Restoration Program. Jessica Vasey Powell. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, your name. So thank you for waiting through 2 hours of our other business. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'll try to keep it brief. I know it's been a long night. I have some slides to share really quickly, if I can share my screen, if that's all right.
Please do.
Okay. Okay. So thanks for having us. And tonight I just want to talk a little bit about some restoration work that we're doing throughout the watershed in partnership with the Merrimack River Watershed Council. And the work is sponsored by a grant through the USDA Forest Service. Let's see if I can advance here. Hold on. Hold on one second. There we go. Just a little bit of overview about the project. Our main goal is to improve water quality and wildlife habitat in the rivers and streams throughout the watershed. And we're doing this by trying to restore vegetative buffers, structurally diverse native buffers throughout the watershed within 200 feet of the rivers and streams. You're all on the Conservation Commission, so I'm sure this is pretty familiar to you, but some of the more specific benefits that accrue from this project are reduced erosion into the stream system, better filtration of pollutants in the stormwater runoff that's flowing overland into the system, better resilience to the floods that happen in the system, as well as creating a cooler environment by shading these streams and rivers, which in turn helps to increase oxygen levels in the streams, which improves the water quality, as well as habitat for fish, wildlife, and macroinvertebrates. We're going about this project using three main techniques. The first is planting native trees and shrubs within 200 feet of rivers and streams. We're also using hand pulling and chopping to manage invasive plants on these sites. And we're doing a series of talks to help educate the public about the importance of healthy riparian areas. A little bit more detail about the planting and invasive plant removal side of things. We're working with both public and private landowners who have property that is within 200 feet of rivers or streams, and whose property has, let's say, sparsely vegetated buffers within the 200 feet. We are providing all of the seedlings and the planting labor free of charge, and we have a variety of different species that we can plant. Some of the more common ones include silky dogwood, silver maple, and white and red oak. We also, as I mentioned earlier, we also use basically loppers and weed wrenches to hand pull and hand manage invasive species that are on these sites. When we go in to do the planting, there's very little actual disturbance to the site. We're primarily doing the planting with a dibble bar, which is just a really long, narrow spade. We open up the earth about a 2 by 2 inch square space and about 1.5 feet deep. We put a bare root stem plant into that hole, and then we just sort of tuck the soil back in around the stem, so there's no real big amount of soil disturbance or holes being dug. If we have a really big site, if we have a lot of volunteers that are involved, we may also use a traditional shovel or trowel to do these plantings. But again, we're not digging big holes or putting the soil back after we disturb it, right where it formerly was. So the reason I'm here tonight is just to see if anybody on the commission or in the public here has any ideas of properties that would fit the bill for this project, specifically that are within 200 feet of a river or stream, and that have that sparsely vegetated buffer. We're happy to go out to sites, check out sites with the property owner and to discuss planting options with the owner. And just sort of as a reminder, this includes both planting and invasive removal. So we're looking for, it could be a site that has both of those things, or just one of those things. And that's my spiel. And I'd be very happy to take any questions or comments or suggestions of sites at this point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know, Jim, you had replied in the email thread a couple months back when this first came up. I don't know if you have some specific sites you had in mind. I don't quite remember the context of those emails.
Yeah, I commented on invasives and removing invasives. You know, since then I did take a long walk along the Nashua in the Cook Conservation Area. It wasn't a great time of year to do that, granted. And aside from that Japanese knotweed, which I know is not, you guys don't tackle that, I didn't really see anything in that area. But, you know, so there's a lot more areas to check out in town that I haven't gotten to. So I'll be keeping my eye out. Okay,
that's great. Yeah, I would say it doesn't have to be something you know immediately, but if you could spread the word, or as you're going around town, anything that comes up in the next 3 to 6 months, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to come out and check out the site.
So what's the process?
The typical process is we would go and visit the site with the landowner and evaluate, you know, whether we felt that it was appropriate and met the conditions that need to be met to be eligible for the grant. After that, we would apply to you for with an RDA to make sure we could do the work without having to file a notice of intent, or if we did need a notice of intent, to file one. And then, you know, we have a number of plants already on hand, and some that we're ordering from the nurseries this spring. So just it's a matter of charting out, you know, how many plants would be needed or what the extent of invasive plants are, and then schedule a day and we get out there and we do the planting. It's actually pretty quick when we do the planting. And if it were for invasive pulling as well, we would try to recruit a number of volunteers to help us. And that's it. After that, we try to make sure that they survive during that first season by either recruiting volunteers to help us water them or getting out there to water them ourselves every so often. And that's really the extent of it most of the time. Some of the times, if there's particular concerns at a site, so for instance, we had one site where beavers were a known problem. We didn't have too many plants, and we were able to wrap each of them in chicken wire to protect the plants while they were young. So that's certainly something that we think about and consider as well, whether there's any exceptional things at a particular site that need exceptional measures to be taken.
Great, thanks. Dennis, you've got your hand up.
Sure. Thank you. And first of all, thank you for coming to share this with us. I think it's a great opportunity. How could residents who felt they met the requirements get in contact with you?
Yes, absolutely. They could call the Nashua River, contact information on our slides, but if they go to our website, NashuaRiverWatershedAssociation.org, they can call the general phone number, or they can email me directly. I'm just going to say the email here in case anybody happens to be watching your recording. It's JessicaVP@NashuaRiverWatershed.org. I'm happy to field phone calls or emails, and I'm sure they could also go through. It was Jim that we were in contact with a little bit. So if they wanted to go through him to get our contact information, that would be fine too, as long as that's fine with him.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
Did we get those slides? I'm not sure if we've.
I will send you the slides. I think that's actually a great idea. And then you can feel free to share them or to post them. We might catch somebody out there that's interested who might be.
Yeah, would it be acceptable if we posted them on our website?
Or however you'd like to share them.
Okay.
Yep, that would be fine with us. Yep. And should I send them to you, Tom? I understand that Brianna is no longer the person to communicate with.
Yeah, you can send them to me. I'll figure out how
perfect.
to. Commissioners, any further questions or comments? Go ahead, Bruce.
I should probably know this, but for what the Conservation Commission has under its jurisdiction, do we have a lot of water frontage, like the Cook Conservation Area? Do we have water frontage in that area, and what other parts do we have water frontage?
We do. So pretty much all of the Cook Conservation Area from the parking lot to 190 is either directly held by the Concom, or we have a conservation restriction on. The commission also holds other lands in the town, some of which border on smaller streams, but certainly that's the big one along the Nashua. Off the top of my head, that's the easiest one to remember. But there are other parcels. We have CRs or own outright 30 or 40 parcels in town.
And then for Cook, do you think do we have areas in Cook itself that you think would qualify for this at all, or?
So I don't walk through Cook. I've only been out there a couple of times. Jim would be able to answer that better than me.
Yeah, I was out there 2 weekends ago. I didn't see any, Bruce, but
Okay.
there is and so there's another area from Ballard Hill.
Yep.
That goes down to the river, so the other side of the river from Cook.
I've been there. I've been there before. I've been
Okay.
down Ballard Hill, down by the river. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that. So, and then across the field from you, next to the river, that's a conservation area along the Nashua River there.
That's right on the further side. Yeah. Yeah.
The other side of the field. Yeah. So it's been years since I've been in there. So there's lots of places for us to check.
Okay.
Great.
And that's just the Concom lands, of course. If I understand correctly, that this program would also be applicable to private landowners, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If they qualify.
We've had a mix of both. Yep. Including we've had some good luck with working with some of the farmers in the area as well, and oftentimes those are some of the larger sites for us. So that's another thought. We don't necessarily have good contacts with the people who are doing agriculture in the different towns, but if you do, that would be helpful if you could reach out to them.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners?
Thank you for presenting.
Yes, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it too. Take care, and I hope to hear from you.
Okay.
All right. And finally on our agenda, thank you for waiting through the rest of the meeting. We have the Cub Scouts, Steve Tarver. So just a little bit of background. Former Chairman Christopher reached out to me this past weekend saying he had heard from former Chairman Ken Raposa, who previously was involved with the Scouts here in Lancaster. There used to be very good interaction between the two groups when Ken was in charge. I know there were a number of projects that Ken spearheaded in conjunction with the Scouts and the Commission. Anyway, from what I understand, there's a stand of maple trees that were planted on Eagle Ridge, and they're just about ready to be tapped. So I asked the gentleman to come on and have a chat with us, and I just wanted to formalize giving them permission to tap the maple trees. So please go ahead, Mr. Tarver.
All right. Yeah. Thank you guys. And thanks for the opportunity. I think the relationship with the Conservation Commission kind of drifted off when Ken left, probably it's getting to be about 5 or 6 years ago now. And that's probably, as you described, Tom, that was probably a little bit before my time that Ken was the head of the Conservation Commission and really driving some kind of very creative projects through Cub Scouts and Conservation Commission partnership. And I think it's something that really a lot of what Ken started, it makes us unique as a pack. And I really just kind of stand on his shoulders, so to speak. Specifically, the project that you're talking about, I've brought a couple of folks with me, Steve Sokovich and Chuck Lemire, who were quite heavily involved in the initial stages of developing that open space on Eagle Ridge. We refer to it as the sugar bush, and Ken got a grant from the not sure where to get about 80 trees that he planted there about 12 years ago. And yeah, Steve and Chuck kind of head up our maple syrup operations, and they're better probably qualified to speak to the maturity level of the trees and why we think it's a good time to tap. But we're looking forward to do it. We'd like to just try it with a few trees and see how it goes. Steve, maybe you can kind of take it from here and talk about some of the specifics of what we're looking to do.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I have Chuck on also. So thank you, committee. I know I've been privileged to be part of, when Ken created it. I actually remember my oldest son right now is a junior at the high school and is actually no longer with the Scouts, but my youngest one is still within the Boy Scouts. And as Steve said, we still continue to do it. And I remember with my two boys actually helping to build the sugar house that's up there, carrying the wood. But we didn't get a chance to plant the trees. But there's approximately 80 or so maples, as Steve had mentioned, that Ken got the grant to build to plant those trees and actually build it. And both Chuck and I, even though our kids are gone, we've been volunteering a lot of our hours to actually maintain the facility and things like that. And one of the things that we would like to do is, as the maturity of the trees go up, they have to be at least 10 inches in diameter before you can actually tap the trees. So for folks that are familiar with it, and there's a percentage of the trees, it's probably about 8 to 10 trees that are potentially now mature enough to actually attempt to do the tapping. As for folks that are familiar with it, we tap all over the rest of the town, but that those trees are actually mature enough to potentially tap and actually collect a little syrup or a little sap that could potentially produce into syrup. So I don't know if Chuck, you would like to add anything else given the history. I know you know of that also to add to the rest of the group.
Yeah, no, sure. Thank you, Steve. So as Steve mentioned, we're pretty careful and actually very conservative with what we do for the trees. If you follow the rules that exist, and they exist for good reason, tapping the trees actually is no harm to the trees. So the ones that we have, they're approximately 8 to 10 inches in diameter, and that's at 4.5 feet off the ground. That's really when you can first tap a tree. We generally wait until they're at least 10 inches just to be a little bit more cautious and conservative, as I mentioned. Steve said we do tap on private property around the town. Most of the trees we tap are quite mature. So if you're familiar with the stand of maples at Kilbourne Farm, as you go down at Sterling Road, I believe over there, there's 24 mature maple trees. Each of those are approximately 30 plus inches in diameter. And those trees we put 3 different taps in. These are little trees. They'll get a single tap, a single line. Ultimately, longer term, we do intend to tap the grove. As you guys are, if you're familiar with Eagle Ridge, you'll notice it is on a slight incline that leads downhill to where our sugar house is. That is by design, so that everything flows downhill toward the sugar house. And we can collect those trees pretty efficiently and effectively. Importantly, as Steve and Steve have mentioned, this really is a pack-oriented activity, including the whole families that participate. So we teach the kids how to tap. We teach them about the whole process end to end. And ultimately, the trees at our sugar bush, really, this is the culmination of the whole process end to end. So that's why we're pretty excited to begin tapping these trees, and hope to add that sap to the overall syrup that we make. This will be the first opportunity we've had to do that. So thank you all very much for your consideration today. And any questions, please don't hesitate. So we love this stuff, and that's why we keep doing it.
Go ahead, Bruce.
So I'd like to share, and first I'd like to thank Ken Raposa for this whole, bringing the whole maple sugaring. Ian and I, we were involved with the planting of the trees back 12, 13 years ago, and it was a wonderful experience. We also were involved with many of those maple sugaring tapping, and Ken's amazing because he knew exactly okay, when the temperature is this in the morning and the temperature is this at night, and he knew exactly when to tap those, And no, it's just a phenomenal experience that you keep with you for the rest of your life. So I appreciate you guys, what you guys do. It's exciting the fact that some of those trees are mature enough to be tapped now. So of course I'm biased, but I'm 100% for it. And you mentioned how Ken had the scouts actively involved with different things, and there are different service projects that scouts are always looking for. So if there's anything that we need help with when it comes to the different properties that we manage, they'd love to help us out, because they can earn service hours and it's group activities. So if there's anything that we can think of that we need from them, I'm sure they'd love to help us out with different projects. But No, thank you guys for coming tonight, and you brought back a lot of great memories. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. It's been years since I've been up there, but I was up there several years ago when Ken was boiling, and I was wondering when those trees would get big enough to tap. So the day is finally here, right? Congratulations, guys. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Any further comments? So I just want to put a formal bow on it. So I'd like a motion to grant the scouts permission to tap the trees. I mean, it seems like it should be a foregone conclusion, but I just want to make sure that we put everything
I'd like to
in
make that
writing, so to
motion
speak.
to allow the scouts to tap the trees.
Yeah, 10-inch diameter at 4 feet. Was that what it was? Chuck?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I'd like to amend the motion to include that.
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made by Bruce, amended by Jim to specify 10-inch trees, and I think seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
And Thomas Seidenberg also votes aye. Enjoy your syrup, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you
really
very much.
appreciate
Very
it.
much.
Thank you, committee.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. Anything else people want to discuss? Brian, you want to maybe give us a quick update on filling the agent position?
Yeah, so we've got, I believe, 3 resumes. One looks, really, really good. So we actually, I got permission to go ahead and interview this candidate early. So Mike and I and Tom, or if someone wants to jump in on an interview this Friday morning at 9 o'clock, we'll do a second round, of course. But yeah, so, and then there are 2 other resumes that have come in, and if this one for some reason doesn't work out, the other 2 look like they'd be okay. But the resumes are scheduled to be in stop collecting resumes by the 23rd, and I think we can try and move this along as quickly as possible, and get this hopefully by mid-March. Hopefully, you have someone on board.
Okay, so that's good news. So I am available Friday at 9, or at least I can be. Does anyone else on the commission? We probably should only have
just 2 max.
I just need to check my work calendar here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I cannot.
I can't make it Friday.
You could?
I cannot make it Friday.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, there's going to be a second round, so.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll bring them back.
And then I guess the one other thing, I did get an email from town administrator today looking to set up the next meeting to talk about Hawthorne. So I think the next meeting isn't going to talk about the open space, but I do think that commission should be available, whether in whole or in part. So there's no fixed date yet. Let me just scroll through my emails here.
You talking about a joint meeting, Tom?
Yeah, it would be another joint meeting with all the other interested boards.
Okay.
And Tom, as you're scrolling through your email, you'll see the email from Ivrea Town Council that just came in at 9 o'clock. About 35 Holiday Lane.
Yep, I saw that. Yep, thanks, Brian. Yeah, so I think the next meeting is going to be discussion of the roadway, the surety, the utility road, and a few other matters. So the open space and the easement questions are explicitly deferred for this meeting. So I don't know if you folks think that we should be there or not. I'm planning on attending because I'm in a butter and I continue to have an interest in this project. Bruce, I see you have your hand raised.
I'll wait until you're done, Tom.
No, I was basically done.
Okay, so I think that also brings up the point two, is putting on the agenda the whole discussion about whether to accept the land or not. I think we need to get that on the agenda. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, that'll be on our next agenda.
Okay, that's already on there. That's good. And then is this just the next regular select board meeting this is going to be on, or?
That's not clear to me. So the request from Kate is to provide availability for our boards for another meeting the week of the 26th or the week of March 4th. I don't know if those were Mondays. Those might have been Mondays. I'm looking at my calendar now. The 26th and the 4th, those are Mondays. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, I think the ask is whether we would be available as a quorum on either the 26th or the 4th. Now, having said that, I don't think that there's much left in Concom jurisdiction other than the open space. There is the question of the expired order of conditions. I don't think that's likely to be discussed at the next meeting, but it might be. Dennis, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'll probably be there for the ZBA as long as it's not on the 26th. So I'll be there either way.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll send an email out to the commission, just polling for your interest and availability on the 26th and the 4th. And then, depending on your responses, we'll either have a quorum or not. I don't think it's necessary for us to have a quorum at this next meeting. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like it is necessary. But Tom, do you have that expired order of conditions? And if so, can you send it to me?
Yeah, I can dig it out of the registry. I don't.
Is it on the town site?
It's not on the town site. It's on the registry of deeds. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I otherwise have a copy. This was before my time.
All right.
What was it before your time? Did you approve the order of conditions for the subdivision?
I think that was before my time too.
Yeah, it might have been as far back as 2015. The preliminary subdivision hearings were 2015.
It's borderline. It might be when I just joined or just before I joined. It's right around that time.
Dennis, you did briefly have your hand raised again. You're good?
I'm good. I just hadn't turned it off.
Okay.
I'm failing at Zoom today.
Bruce, go ahead.
So I think we all agree that, we're not necessarily going to need a quorum at this meeting, but if when the meeting comes, if enough people end up showing up, then does that automatically make it a quorum?
Yeah. If
okay.
Please let me know so that we can properly post if we're going to happen to have a quorum.
Okay. Yep.
So I will send
once
email
you let
around.
us know when the meeting's going to be, I can let you know if I'm going to be there or not.
Yeah, I will forward this email that I have from Kate with the explicit ask of the 26th and the 4th. And
great.
If you guys just reply.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that concludes our business. Are any further items from folks today? Happy to take a motion to adjourn this very long meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Dennis?
A second.
All right, motion is made by Dennis, seconded by Sean to adjourn the meeting. Seeing no discussion, roll call vote. Bruce McGregor.
Aye.
Dennis Hubbard.
Aye.
Jim LaValle.
Aye.
Sean Windsor.
Aye.
And Tom Seidenberg also votes aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.